and hope. I'm not sure how the England team are waiting and watching, and perhaps they're quite happy to see the rain. I wouldn't speak for them. Now, my pleasure to introduce someone who's played 267 tests. Well, he's watched them, he's talked about them, and he needs to because he's 80 years old. It's quite a healthy age. Brian Johnston has written the book called Someone Who Was. Well, you are.
Well, I am, but you see, a lady came up to me and I was selling flags at Paddington Station and said, I think I recognise you, Mr. Johnson. I said him if you would like that. And I said, oh, do you? And she said, yes, tell me, aren't you someone who was? And I said, well, madam, I think I still am, but I thought, title, good title, now I've got to think of something to put between the pages, and I wrote this book.
Well, I've looked at the contents, and the contents appear to be the alphabet.
Yes, I went down the alphabet, following the sort of wonderful one which Tapman and Barr and Flanagan now did of A for horses, B for mutton, C for final, D for differential, E for Adam, and all that, and L for leather and emphasis, and then in for a dig and O for a wing for a dot. And so this is a proper alphabet of things I've done in my life.
But let me start you off then with E for Eton.
E for Eton, well, yes, I was very lucky to go to Eton, which is the best trades union in Great Britain, I think, because you always meet elderly turners around the place. And there's a pretty ghastly picture there. That is, I got into a thing called pop, which doesn't mean you're popular, but you've reached a certain status. And you're allowed to wear those stick-up collars and a white bow tie and carnation. So that was a young Johnston in about 1930, that would be.
You look like a rather nervous conductor of an orchestra, don't you?
Scared stiff, I looked, then.
But
the beak was still there.
As a member of pop, you had a certain amount of authority.
Not much, but I mean, I tried to. Yes, I was captain of games in the house, so you had to sort of show an example.
Were you an all-round sportsman?
No, I played. They had a thing called the field game there, which was a mixture between soccer and rugby. And funny enough, in those days I ran quite fast. I'm not quite as fast now. And cricket, so I just played the two.
You ran fast away from or towards?
When playing rugby, away from, and I played rugby for Eton as well. And then when I got to Oxford, I scored a try in a Macintosh, which I don't think anyone's ever done. You haven't.
How do you do that?
Well, I was in the centre, and someone tackled me, and removed my shorts with the tackle, and I rushed the touchline. Someone said, you better put this Macintosh on to hide your confusion, so I put it on, and someone went to get some more shorts, but the ball came down the line. When he came to the left wing, I said, outside you! And he passed, what it was, into my hands, and the referee should have blown his whistle, but I didn't get permission to go on. He's laughing so much, and I touched down between the posts. I haven't met anyone else who scored a try in the Macintosh.
No, neither have I. You're quite right. Now, you were next seen on horseback, also at Oxford.
Yes, it was the only point-to-point I ever rode in. I used to ride a little bit as a child, and there you see Tip-Top. Now, he was a half-brother of April the 5th. They didn't say which half, but he could have stopped when he wanted, but he had the racing instinct, and I was a great advocate in those days of the forward seat, but actually I'm more or less all right there.
Good technique.
And we went round, and I got all my friends to go round and very loudly saying, I'll have a quid on Tip-Top, and you finished about second favourite. And in the end, I finished about sixth in the race. I did get round, and I was more or less booed by the crowd when they got back, because they'd all backed me, thinking he was a big tip. But it was a very nice horse, Tip-Top.
How did your national hunt career progress after that?
After that, only getting in a tenth of a horse on the flat, so the national hunt never existed anymore.
Oh, yes, what was that, W.G. Gray?
W.G. Gray, yes, it was by a thing called Grey Mirage, and we all cricketers, from David Brown and all those sort of people, and so we called it W.G. Grays, which was a terrible pun, and he won once or twice, and we got rid of it, unfortunately.
People, I guess, will not be surprised to know how much the horses are followed from these commentary boxes and from the dressing rooms.
We've had some very, when we did the telly in the old days, Dennis Crumpton was, non-stop and sending out strips and things and that sort of stuff, and you've had Ted Dexter, certain Benner's not uninterested.
Neither is Bannister.
Banners, yes. Well, Banners is on the other side, isn't he?
Yes.
He takes the odds.
Well, I don't know which side Banners is on, actually.
He looks very prosperous. I suspect he's a bookie.
Okay, life moved on. What sort of a guard were you?
Well, I got in the Grenadier Guards because a cousin of mine was commanding one of the battalions just before the war, and we thought, well, we must get into a nice regiment. And so we went and trained before the war, and I became an officer cadet, went to Sandhurst, and that was a picture of me taken in about February 1940, exactly, 1940. And that was me as a second lieutenant, the first time I was ever photographed in a guard. It was smart. I didn't have to wear bearskin because I didn't do parades. I was an amateur soldier.
Were you snapped up?
Oh, yeah, they wanted me immediately. I joined the battalion, and they said, whoever ridden a bicycle, motorbike before, I said, no. He said, right, you're in charge of the motorcycle too, typical army. So I had to learn to ride a motorbike. And then when we became mechanised, which we were, they said, right, you better be the motor officer. And I went to pass an exam, And I didn't know any of the questions, but a friend of mine was on duty the night before in the adjutant's room, and in the in-tray were all the questions, and he slipped them to me. So I passed that, and when we became armoured, I became technical adjutant. I didn't understand anything about the tanks, but no one else did. That was a great thing.
Now, someone who was, let's go down the contents again, the alphabet here. I've got a music hall, M for music hall.
Yes, I've been a musical fan all my life. In the 30s, I used to go to Holborn Empire, Chelsea Palace, Palladium, and I saw all the greats. I saw Flanagan Mallam when they started, Max Miller, all those people, Hutch, and I just go through the whole lot, Tommy Trinder. And so I've always been a slightly frustrated comic. I pinched all their jokes. And,
well, I saw a photograph, and we have it here, of you appearing in a circus ring standing on a horse. I mean, that's fairly theatrical, isn't it?
Well, that was in the thing I did in the entire night called Let's Go Somewhere. Yes, I did 150 of these live, that's the point. Every Saturday night, 3.5 to 4 minutes, something exciting like lying under a train or riding a horse bareback. I had that rope in case I fell off, and it's quite difficult even on the knees, and just after that, I got up and stood up and, needless to say, fell off. But a clown friend of mine had lent me his quick-release trousers, and he said, when you're falling off, pull this and your trousers will come off. And of course, it was in front of a live audience in Harrogate. When a BBC chap fell off and his trousers came down, I had some very smart pants on, and it was quite a success.
To send for the Mac again.
Well, yes. But,
probably the story of your life. That's your next title. Send for the Mac.
Send for the Mac. Thank you very much. It was a good idea. I've got to think of something to say now.
But Flanagan, underneath the arches, I think of the old Ollie Milburn because he was...
Ollie and I used to sing underneath Ollie Milburn, underneath the arches, and Me and My Shadow. Yeah. And it's the only tune I could play for a year, and still can. And one of those nights, I wheeled a piano, a street piano, outside the Victoria Palace stage door, and Bud, who was a great friend of mine, came out. And there we are singing underneath the arches. I'm standing up playing the piano, which isn't easy. And we sang, and I think I must be the only one alive who sung underneath the arches with Bud, because Gerald Chesley's dead. But he was a warm, he was a very funny man, but he was warm, he was absolutely lovely.
Now, were these in pre-cricket commentating days?
No, during it all. No, I started the television, you see, cricket in 1946, when they had 2 test matches and no commentator. And a friend of mine called Ian O'Ewing rang up in March 1946 and said, help! I'm back in television, in charge of sport, no commentators, 2 tests, would you like to do it? Yeah. But did these between 1948 and 1952. And that thing lying under a train, which was meant to be lying under the Golden Arrow, but it was late. And so I said, we'll take an electric train, which we did, and I said, now let's leave. So I had this chap from the Southern Railway with me. He said, no, you must stay, the Golden Arrow's coming now. And luckily we weren't on the air, because when he went over, someone was washing their hands. He said, well, I got absolutely south. Just outside Victoria Station.
Television commentary and radio, quite different. Do you enjoy one more than the other? You better not say that. I mean, no, compare them.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I think television for the first 15 or so years was marvellous, because we were learning. Never speak unless you can add to the picture was the one thing we were told, because we went on talking non-stop. But no, I loved doing television. It's got terribly technical now, and I suppose I'm a natural talker, so radio is easier. There's no question. I don't have to edit myself, so I say that. Is it obvious? I just waffle away. But they're both fun. That's the great thing.
Brian, in here is the Wood, W for the Wood, St John's Wood. You do love that part of London. Also, you're a great lover of Lord's, aren't you?
Well, I am. And when we got married in 1948, my wife said, where should we live? I said, near Lord's, and she found us a house, and we've been there for 44 years. And it's my second home. I wander around there in the winter and see the boys. We coach and pick out shooting and cricketers and go to the library. So it's a great place. And there was a great... Well, there's the long room. I mean, no members sitting there. If they were, most would be asleep. But I mean, you know, that is the famous long room. And it's lovely to walk through there, which you have done, through the door, out through the little white gate. And I did it twice when Cross Arrows, which is a little local club that the MCC had for the ground stock, they paid out in the middle in 1946 and 47, so I did walk through there.
I was there on Tuesday, the first day of the morning of the varsity match. Sadly, just one person sitting there.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? But it's got a marvellous atmosphere, and it is the famous. Should I just tell the report from one? Because the Swanson and I were doing television in 1963, and they told us at the time there were tens of thousands of people waiting for Peter Square in Rome. The new Pope is going to be elected, and they're waiting for that white puff of smoke which comes out of the chimney. And they said, if that happens, they go straight across, see who the new Pope was, and leave the test match. And we were waiting for this call to Rome. It didn't come. Jim sitting alongside me, and I looked out of the corner of my and the old tavern, of course, chimney had caught fire, and black smoke was belching on, and Anthony Craxton was a great producer. I said, quick, quick, crackers! And he switched it on. I said, oh, Jim Swanson's been elected president. Jim has never been more pleased in his life. It was a great moment.
You were so well remembered for the Down Your Way program. How many universities did you do, Brian? Do you know?
I did 733 because Gerald Jingle and Franklin Engelman had done 733, and he died after recording one, and I had to take over. And when I got a bit tired of travelling, after 15 years, I worked backwards from 733 and found that on May the 20-something in 1987 would be my last one. And naturally enough, where should I choose to be? But Lord, from there, I'm talking to Mick Hunt, who's the groundsman there, and who noticed the scoreboard, and that's significant. 733 is the highest score ever recorded on that scoreboard, the previous one being 729 by Australia in 1930. So that was a lovely occasion. I interviewed people like Colin Cardew was the president, and needless to say, Dennis Thompson, the curator, and the Colonel, John Stevenson, and of course Nancy. Up in the
everyone was slightly afraid of Nancy. I think it's a healthy fear of Nancy.
Nancy is marvellous. She's got the best table in the thing, and she sips lovely brown beef sandwiches to me. She's a dear. She's marvellous. But my gosh, she keeps them in order. They can't come in shorts or anything like that. Boys have to dress properly or they don't get any meals. Mind you, if you go there about 7 o'clock, you see Gatting having his second breakfast, and he comes back for another one about 9. He gets through a lot of bacon and eggs before he gets his really big lunch.
Sandwiches were her speciality.
It's a great place, Lord.
I'm going to show you a Welsh connection now, because you and Sir Harry Seacombe have been up to a bit of mischief in your time.
Dear old Harry, yes, we sang a song in his Highway. Yes, I've done several ones with him, but that one, we sang a song about Test Match Special. I wish I could remember the words, because it means that said, well, old people never die, they nearly join Test Match Special. And then we did another one with him at Hambledon, up on Broad Halfpenny Down, and we did it in April, but it was going out in mid-June, and so they had false lights like we got now, showing sunshine. It was a freezing day, and we had to sit in the deck chair, and just before the take, we stripped off, and I remember saying, oh my God, it must be cold up here in the winter. He was stripping like that. But he's a great person to work with. Laugh at
Lovely man.
Oh, he is.
We've got from the book. We've a couple more pictures. One is of golf. I want to talk about radio after, but just have one more.
There's my daughter Joanna holding the flag. Yeah. And that putt was sunk, needless to say. And I'm a very, very bad golfer. I have a philosophy that I play perhaps 1 or 2 good shots in a round, and you people like you who are good play perhaps 1 or 2 bad shots. When we have a drink afterwards, you're moaning about your bad shots, I'm remembering the good ones, and that's the philosophy. And I think that's marvellous. So I'm not very good there. Slice, an awful thing.
We've got several minutes left now to talk about cricket on radio and the Test Match special programme. Some of your colleagues, we've even got the prison shot of them here.
Look at them all. But there you are. They're a very good-looking bunch, aren't they? At least they're all smiling.
Now we've got Mike Selvey on the extreme right, Peter
Baxter, and then Vic Marks, and then Aggers at the back, then the Boyle, Trevor Bailey, and then myself in the middle, I don't know why, and Tony Cozier, looking over my right here, Sir Frederick, and the Alderman, Don Mosier, and the bearded wonder to the left. And I like the fact that we're all smiling, because what we do try and get out of it is some fun. And
lovely response from the public, which is the whole object.
Well, they're very kind. People do. They write in hundreds and hundreds of letters, and we've just had 2 very nice cakes delivered to us this morning here. You see, people take so much trouble with them. I mean, it's very embarrassing, really, because so many people send them. You have to say thank you. But they make little cricket matches on them, or they did a coloured thing of that. Remember that picture in the museum at Lord's with the fielder down there and King Edward walking round, W.G. batting? Well, they took a replica in coloured icing, and I had to put it in the freezer for 3 years, and people came to the house. I didn't say, look at that picture on the wall. I said, come in the kitchen and open it up, because it's too good to eat.
Donald, I have to say thank you. Brian Johnston, someone who was, is the name of the book. He certainly still is, and no doubt there'll be another volume coming shortly.
I don't think so.
But Wimbledon calls us. Wimbledon calls us.
We're going to have some patters of it.
Patters. It reigneth at Old Trafford. Let's try Wimbledon and say good morning to Des Lynham.
Brian, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, here at Wimbledon, we're approaching high noon, and we're all set for the shootout. It's men's semi-finals day.